Shadowversity.
Greetings, I'm Shad, and I'm a massive fan of fantasy, and one of the things I particularly like to do on this channel is analyse how the medieval period is adapted into fantasy for its realism and practicality. And one of the things that has come up on this channel more than once is the idea, the concept of female armour, more specifically boob armour, and how practical would it be in reality. And if you've seen my previous videos, you will have learned that there's actually a bit more true historical validity to it than you might have realised. And if you haven't seen it, well, I encourage you to check out those videos so you can get the context, because now, with that foundation, I would like to take a look at what some of the adaptations, the depictions are of this common, fantasy trope, fantasy armour specifically, but even more specifically, female armour. But even more specifically than that, female boob armour, because we here at Shadowversity are people of culture, and I'm indeed joined by another man of culture. Oz, how are you?
I'm Oz. I'm great. I love fantasy and I love female armour, and, often my fantasies and the female armour go hand in hand.
Thank you for that, Oz.
Massive fantasy.
But we... So we're actually going to have a look at some fantasy art and how the female armour is depicted, and I'm going to give it a rating of, is it practical, functional, is it completely not functional, is it not armour, or is it impractical, unrealistic armour? So there's 3 levels. Practical, somewhat practical but with obvious issues or problems in it, completely unpractical, and there'll be a 4th one called the wild card, which is the barbarian exception. How could there be an exception with the barbarian kind of culture or aesthetic? I have a video on it. Okay, yes, I have a video exploring the barbarian aesthetic as well, and we're going to dive into it. So thank you for joining me on this one, Oz.
Well, I'll have a rating system too.
Yes.
But it'll be from A to triple D.
When looking at artistic depictions of female armour, before we dive into the modern fantasy art, Oz, did you actually know that there is medieval artistic depiction of female boob armour?
Wait, that stuff's real?
Well, it gives precedent that it might be, because in one of my previous videos, I show that people have changed the design of armour for visual aesthetics. And because just women were not warriors often historically, we do not see adaptations in armour designed to accentuate the female form, but we saw it to accentuate the male form with surviving actual examples. The thing is, though, it turns out there might have actually been armour that was designed to accentuate the female form that just hasn't survived, and there's precedent for it in this medieval art. Take a look. So here is the first example, and although, could you call it boob plate? There is certainly some ribbing that's accentuating, the breasts there. Did you have to go there? I wasn't making a connection until that, Oz.
What, you're saying that she has a ribbed outer layer?
Yes.
Does she like it?
What is most definitely prominent here is a more emphasis on the female form, I find, okay? And the waist and the hips there.
The art style's beautiful.
It's pretty good, and then it's definitely feminine. Look at the armour on the arms and the dress there. Is it wholly practical? Well, the dress is pretty long, so that'll get in the way. But here's one example. This one, it's harder to see, and it looks a lot more like chainmail, but it has this kind of feminine floral underpart hanging over the dress. It's not really boob armour. This one is hard to tell is this metal armour or not, because some of the frills are a bit painted the same way as what looks to be metal, but those are helmets, and that's the same colour. But if this is armour, well, there is definite prominent in the bust there. That would be boob armour.
Well, it's like you said before, they drew what they knew. So if someone was told, hey, draw a lady in armour, well, he might know how to draw a helmet on a lady, but he might not know how to draw armour on a lady, so he just does a dress like
it could be. Look, this one, because there are so few examples, we need to say, give the caveat that this could be artistic license, all right? We don't have physical surviving examples, to my knowledge, with some exceptions maybe, of female boob armour, but it sets a precedent. Because there are precedents, there is practical validity in this. This one it looks a bit more practical, and you definitely see it starting to bulge at the bust, and so I think this one qualifies. This one is interesting because you definitely see a depiction in the artwork to emphasize the boobs. It's hard to say if that's like is that part of the armor, but it's.
I think so.
Yeah. This one is another one of the same type. Okay, and we see male armor, and then someone in a female wearing, and the armor she's wearing is distinctly different. This one is another interesting one. This one's beautiful actually, because we see like almost painted armor. Pauldrons, helmets, gauntlets, and it's integrated in a creative way. But could that be fabric though? Because that like the way that the lines are on the fabric looks like it could be that could actually be a fur lining on like a red satin kind of cloth.
Yeah, it might be a linen sort of armor.
Yeah, or linen over armor. But there's definitely the focus and the bulges in the chest area. This one's interesting. Okay, so this looks very distinctly like armor, but there is distinct. But it goes flat, and there is the bulge right there. So, and this is medieval art. I want people to bear in mind. Okay, I'm emphasizing that. Another one. Look at this. Okay, so there are examples of boob armor from medieval art. Check this one out. That's an interesting one. There is distinct kind of shaping and prominence showing female breasts. So this next one is a very interesting one. I actually don't know if I was trying to find the period where this statue was built, and I couldn't find confirmation. I'm not sure it actually comes from the medieval period, but it does display something really interesting. That could have been one of the ways that they did boob armor in the medieval period, if this actually harkens back to that period more accurately. Again, I don't know how old the statue is. This statue is a statue of Joan of Arc, and it's located in the medieval fortified commune Mont Saint-Michel. Mont Saint-Michel looks absolutely stunning if you've seen pictures of it. And so if you looked up Joan of Arc statue Mont Saint-Michel, this is what you'll find. Now, again, I don't know if this is actually from the period, but it feels like a pretty realistic depiction of someone saying, this is a woman in armor, we want to make sure people can see her as a woman, and so they literally rivet cups over the chest part to emphasize the female form.
But do you really think they had access to bronze work like that for statues that complicated and intricate?
Oh, they had some pretty, like... Bronze, look, I don't know. I'm not an expert on statues, but they had intricate statues. I know that they made really, like, if you look at medieval effigies and things like that, and burial statues and things, we get some really important information on the design of armor based on those. So there we go. That is like legitimate depictions of female boob armor in artwork from the medieval period. And we're going to go take a look at modern artwork now and give our ratings, our opinions on it. For science. Clearly for science.
For science?
Yes.
We're science people.
Yeah, this is clearly for the intellectual pursuit and knowledge of, for the benefits of society.
I love science and boobs, so this is perfect.
Yeah, it works well. One of the reasons why boob armor is, of course, more prominent in fantasy, because in fantasy, we like, kick-butt action female warriors and stuff. And look, there is the rare example in history, but in fantasy, because... people like that. Both men and women like that. And there are some great examples from literature that you can enjoy, which you can get access to for free thanks to the sponsor of this video, which is Audible. New members can try Audible free for 30 days. Visit audible.com/Shadiversity or text Shadiversity to 500 Audible offers an incredible selection of audiobooks across every genre, from bestsellers to new releases to celebrity memoirs, mysteries, thrillers, motivational talks, wellness, business, and more. And on top of that, as an Audible member, you can choose one title a month to keep from their entire catalog, including the latest bestsellers and new releases. And on top of that, all Audible members get access to a growing selection of titles included with their membership that they can listen to whenever they want. The selection includes audiobooks, Audible originals, podcasts, and more, which get added to every single month. And the Audible app makes it incredibly easy to listen anytime, anywhere, while you're traveling, while you're working out, while you're walking, doing chores. It is so convenient. I love it. It works on multiple devices and remembers where you were in your audiobook track, so you can pick up on the same spot while you're listening on your phone or when you're listening on your computer. And all new members can try Audible free for 30 days. And check out heaps of fantasy literature that has great examples of a kick-butt female action hero, or just a regular fantasy action hero that you love as well. But you got Witcher, you got Game of Thrones, or you could even check out my audiobook, Chronicles of Everfall, Shadow of the Conqueror. Yes, there's a prominent character, an arch knight called Lyra, and she is definitely a kick-butt character. My one is a bit dark, so there's a content warning on that. www.audible.com/Shadiversity, or if you're in the US, you text Shadiversity to 500 500. You get to enjoy them when you're driving in your car, when you're doing something with your hands, but you end up enjoying them just because they're great. It's some of the best stories you can find anywhere. So thank you to Audible for sponsoring this video, and let's take a look at some fantasy depictions of female boob armor. Now, I have a couple of caveats I need to mention before we dive into this, Oz.
It's for science.
It is for science. Thanks for emphasizing that. You're quick off the mark to mention that. The other caveat I mentioned is that a lot of these are fantasy artistic depictions, and I have no idea who the artist is. So what happens is I have a somewhat of a habit, a guilty pleasure, I guess, where I get stuck on Pinterest, and I end up going down a Pinterest rabbit hole because you get one image and then you get like hundreds of recommendations of similar images, and if you find one awesome image, a lot of the other images are awesome, and I love collecting artwork of fantasy characters just generally, and so I've spent a lot of time collecting a wide body of work. And so if you have a look here, I have just collected like just hundreds of fantasy, characters. I think they're brilliant. I love, barbarian ones. If we open this one, check out, it's like awesome barbarian artwork. I don't know who'd made this artwork. Pinterest doesn't give credit. It's posted online and then reposted, copied and everything. And awesome, I'm saving that one, put it in my reference folder. If you do know the artist of any of the artworks that we feature here as we're going through, or if you are the artist, please just put the name in a comment below with a timestamp to where the specific artwork appears, and if I see it, I'll try and put it in the description of this video, and so any of the artworks comes up, hopefully we'll be able to get the artist's name, and they'll get, credit there as well. But also, please bear in mind, this is a transformative kind of review and reaction to artwork online, okay? We're not stealing it from the artist, we're not selling it or anything like that. This is actually under a fair use review. And so what I have done, out of the hundreds and hundreds of general fantasy images, I just grabbed and even went out of my way to find out some more extreme versions of female boob armor, so we can give our rating for science. All right, I wonder if we should stop at the top or the bottom.
Well, it's boobs, so the top.
So go. So honestly, the first one is actually a pretty practical design, okay? It is a shorter breastplate, ending just underneath kind of the rib cage. It has the bulge to emphasize the female bust. This one, I would say, fully practical. And it's a gorgeous piece of art as well. This one is great. This one is even more historically authentic, but the bulge that we often see in armor, again, is just being raised. There's no dip to separate the boobs. It's just a kind of a smooth thing with a bit of a point, but that would be wholly protective. You have a guard on the neck to stop anything sliding up.
It does have some anatomical issues, though.
Yeah, it's exaggerated anatomy for stylistic purposes, and I'm fine with that. Like we see it with when superheroes have bulging muscles that are exaggerated and out of proportion, and we see it for female characters as well. And this is just to accentuate the stylistic depiction to make it look as awesome as possible.
But aren't you mad that she's got two long swords, one in each hand?
Well, I mean, look, there's the other side. Is like her arms look pretty thin, and I don't know how strong she'll be to be able to handle it. But if she, fantasy, we can give some exceptions for just fantasy for the sake of awesomeness. If I was being wholly critical, yeah, there are things we can talk about. All right, so next one. This one is interesting. Look at if you had an issue with the sword the other one was holding, look at the sword she's holding there. And look, I love super big swords, okay? And if you're just in a fantasy setting where they have super strength or magical materials or whatever magic to, yeah, I'm fine with that. The actual boob plate here isn't too bad. Okay, it stops it a little short, and so she doesn't have huge armor. My larger problem is actually the oversized pauldron on her shoulder.
Yeah, because that's going to hit her face if she raises her.
If it raises, yeah, like unless it kind of rolls back behind when she raises it that way. But this is the middle ground. It's practical with problems. Okay, so this one, I don't mind it either. This is one that has separated breasts on it, okay? But the actual overall design of the armor will be a bit harder to move in. But in terms of the chest plate, it's not bad. In fact, what's good about the chest plate is that the breastplate ends at the ribs, so you can still move on the side. And so that's actually, it's not a bad one. I would give it practical. This one, I'm not sure you could count this as armor, Oz.
Wouldn't want to run in it.
Yeah, things will get all jiggly. I can't really see it. Can you zoom in a bit?
Just for science?
For science.
For science? Wait, that was just an automatic thing.
Yeah.
Focus there. That wasn't my fault.
Is that cleavage or is that?
I don't know.
Skin-colored plates.
I don't know. To me, it's not really armor. This is not armor. It does not get the armor rating.
I'll give it a rating.
All right, this one, it's hard to tell because the leg armor is going underneath the cloth, and we can assume that she's got some type of breastplate underneath as well. But
funny.
Well, we also can assume she has breast underneath as well. But by the way, there's one just because it came up. The fact is, the comparison to female armour is, of course, the male codpiece in armour, and which we've seen many examples of. But there's an interesting comparison that I'll just quickly bring up in regards to this. So if I armour,
oh, there it is.
There, there it is. There it is. Now, I have a feeling that the size that's reflected on the outside is not accurate to the size that is underneath the armour. I'm just saying.
In the old days, Vikings would just use a horn.
Okay. Like, that one's very bulbous.
Yes. They actually put it in there for protection.
If we look up boob armor just on the internet, there is this, we should be able to find like a comical meme that actually has more historical precedent than people might credit it. It might actually come up under...
Oh.
There, it's this one here. Have you seen that one before?
Yeah.
I don't know, like when the discussion of boob armor comes around, people post that as a meme sometimes and everything. Though the funny thing is, there's more historical precedent for that.
Because of the codpiece.
Because of the codpiece. The codpiece was not proportionate in size either.
Mm.
Maybe some people would prefer it to accentuate or fool people. Anyway, back to this image. Practical. This one looks great. And it's just, what a talented piece of art as well. Like,
yeah.
Gorgeous. This is one of my favourite, honestly. It's very elegant, very smooth. It's just gentle, but it emphasises the female form. I mean, there are a couple things. I think the tassel isn't long enough as well, so there's a bit of a gap there. But in terms of the breastplate, I love it. I think this is great.
To be fair, women would have a shorter tassel than a man in knight's armour, wouldn't they?
No, not necessarily.
I'm just thinking about parts here.
I don't know, I don't think so.
Okay.
This one is very functional looking armour, but it's actually not boob armour. So this actually doesn't even qualify. So
could put a dude in that and it'd make no difference.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. All right, this one I think would be a bit harder to move in. Like in terms of the breastplate continues past the actual hips, and so that would make it much harder to kind of move in. The actual shaping of the breast, and it's important that we look very closely at the shaping here.
Absolutely, look very closely at the shaping of the breasts.
In fact, we might just want to zoom in a bit, just so we can get a clearer understanding. That would actually restrict the movement of her arms, I reckon. Okay,
you reckon?
If she had her arm crossed her side and wanted to raise it, I reckon it's metal. It doesn't compress.
What is the worst thing? You're a soldier on the field. You've got two soldiers. You're like, ha, and a boob pops out of the plate.
Put it back in. As a distraction, maybe. Well, this is the thing. Some of the Celtic tribes, when they went to war, okay, some of the men, they would go to fight naked, and then to distract the Romans when they were fighting, the women standing on the sides would present themselves flash and to cheer on the men. This is a historical thing, all right? And to try and distract the enemy.
They do that at rock concerts now.
That one's middle ground. It has some issues, I would say. This one, I reckon, fully practical.
Can't see it that well. Can you zoom in?
Yeah, well, for science, of course. Look, actually, the breastplate kind of comes weirdly down and leaves the top shoulder a bit exposed there. So, middle ground as a result. So, this one is actually, I don't mind it at all. Like, it's an elegant breastplate. It emphasises the form.
Yeah.
Very practical. And the guard on the neck isn't too high up, so when she lowers her head, it'll actually be behind the guard there as well. There's actually a more kind of realistic depiction of an anime character. If people are unfamiliar with the Fate Stay Night series, I think the character Seiya, it's a gender-swapped King Arthur.
That's actually not a bad idea.
Well, they justified in the anime surprisingly well that for her to get the influence and to not be looked down upon as a woman. People either just called her king and stuff, and sometimes she pretended that she was a king and things. Look, I don't know the details, but they, of course, go much further in the anime. You know, it's the classic anime waifu stuff here. But this is a great realistic depiction, I reckon. So this one, the proportions are a bit exaggerated, a bit more, but the breastplate actually works really well.
But if she needs to lean over to pick up her sword, she can stab herself in the crotch.
Well, it depends. I don't think too much. Maybe you might have a point. So maybe middle ground then. Hard to say.
Her legs are completely exposed.
Well, that's the overall armour, you're right. But the thing is, it's actually common in history to have armour that only covers the upper body. So if you actually look at a lot of medieval artworks, you will find artwork where guys, they're like fully decked out, helmet, breastplate, all the armour on the arms, nothing on the legs.
Yeah, but you've got two of the biggest arteries in either leg.
No, but the reason is sometimes when you're in a formation, okay, it's harder for the legs to be hit because, you know, you're in a formation, it's harder to reach. Other points, in actual combat, legs are much easier to protect because people have to reach lower to try and hit the legs, and if you slip your legs back and present your weapon forward, that can prevent people from striking the legs as well. Okay. I know in my own sparring, historical European martial arts, sword fighting, I wasn't wearing that, but protecting my legs is one of the easiest ways to defend. The thing that often gets hit most is your hands, your wrists, and of course, head is it's hard, and then, you know, it's all a bit the likelihood of hitting other areas kind of fall in the same areas after that. So I don't criticize too much lack of armor in some areas because there's historical precedent for that. So lack of armor on the legs, and if she, you know, doesn't want to wear pants and get some breeze, it's like a feminine choice often. So
bend your knees and feel the breeze.
Yep. This one I don't mind. Like, it's an interesting design in regards to boob armor, and I am somewhat of the unofficial patron saint of boob armor with my videos where I've been able to share historical precedent for it and stuff. It's just sometimes people call me that. Like, you know, what can if that's the title, what can I say? An issue can happen with boob armor if the actual kind of breast cups are pushed too far to the sides, like I was saying, and that's when the arms can get in the way. All right, but if it's undertoned, it's less of an issue. The thing is, though, this is the issue. There are women who have particularly heavy busts, and to accommodate for that, that's when you might have to have something that's a bit more pronounced in the armor to accommodate for it. And if that's the case, it's just an issue you'd have to deal with. The arms can get in the way, you just have to live with it. So maybe I should need to withdraw my accusation on the other one where if they're a bit too large, if they're too large, some women just have that, they have to live with it. If
women do have a rather large bust, should they seriously, like, be on the battlefield? Shouldn't they be at my place?
Why, Oz?
So I can make them some tea. No. I won't drink it, though.
Yes, Claudia.
In terms of crossing your arms over your chest, your boobs sit below your shoulders.
We have a woman here in the studio who has direct first-hand experience.
We got one.
And she rose an interesting point in crossing the arm. I'm not sure what you heard, so I'll repeat it. If you cross your arm, that would be over the bust. The problem is when you need to cross it like that. And then but she raises a good point that you could modify your movement to accommodate for...
And women would naturally do that, because if they need it under the boob, they'll go like that. Yeah. Over it, they just go like that.
Yeah, and so I don't think it would be wholly detrimental if you just accommodate the strikes and then you just have to kind of round around the boob to cross your arm.
But you knew you were filming the boob armor video today, so you brought an expert.
We have experts here.
Me.
Alright, so this is armor. They're trying to say it's armor. It's metal parts, alright, but not enough metal.
There is, and you might not spot it, there is a weak point, right?
Yeah, where is it?
Zoom in,
right? We might need to zoom in just to make sure.
Right, and you can see on both of her shoulders...
You're right, the shoulders are exposed. Look, no, so... Not practical, I'm sorry.
She could catch a sword with that bust.
Just look at those shoulders, Oz. Just look at those shoulders.
I would hit the breast parts just to watch them jiggle.
That's why she keeps her purse.
Yeah, she's got another dagger in there somewhere.
Look at this one.
That one is less fun.
It is less fun. The thing is, I love it. Like, it looks like Gambison. I'm not sure. It doesn't actually look like Brigandine, so it's Gambison with some metal, armoured attachments. I think it's great. Top, yes, practical, great piece of art. This is a barbarian armour. Okay, how protective? Not very. Let's be honest.
I would go ahead and say that is not protect. Look, it's protecting the fact that if a man sees that, they're going to be like stunned for a second.
Pause.
Yeah.
But in terms of the bikini aesthetic, we've already mentioned in this video, there's precedent of people going into battle naked, all right? And so if you want to hear certain parallels and anything like that, you can check out my video on bikini armor. This falls into that. I wouldn't call it armor, though. That's the thing.
Whoever made that was into feet.
I don't know. I like the fur. It's like what are those pants that have flares? Are they the pants?
I don't know.
It's in the 60s where they have the flare. I think they're called flares.
Bootleg.
It's trying to get that aesthetic of a flaring out, and I think it actually has a cool aesthetic. I don't mind.
Toes would be cold.
Yeah. This one, I don't even know if that's a girl. I was going to say it's not boob armor though.
Might be Asa Butterfield.
Don't know. This one. It's hard to see this is leather armor. It's not the front, so I can't really gauge it. But I like the combination of the skirt. It's actually just a beautiful piece of art. So.
It really is. Does the leather have studs? Because if it doesn't, I'll be upset.
Yeah, we can go in. Look, it's got cuffs here, and there's some studs here and there. Oh, look, actually, the leather stops there. So this might not even go past. This might not be actual boob armor. It might stop above the chest because that's what it looks like from the back. So, okay. It's not armor then. Wow, look at that.
Striking.
That is striking. That's not only gorgeous, that's beautiful in terms of some practicality and functionality. That is great. This is probably one of the best examples I could give about like wholly practical and functional armor that's made to emphasize the female form but still be practical. This is gorgeous.
There is one thing though that is very impractical for fighting: the heels.
Yeah, you're right. Jill Bearup has a great video on heels, what types of footwear you might want to use in combat and stuff, and so check out that video if you're interested in her take on it. You're right, the heels, there's a way that if the heel doesn't go down, if the heel actually flares out to give you some stability, you might have, at least there's more justification for it.
It's more of a balance issue, isn't it?
Yeah, having a heel that goes more narrow, that's bad for sport, any type of physical activity, and so that's a fail in that regard.
You wear heels in ballroom dancing.
Yeah, so there are physical activity that wear heels, granted. Thank you, Claudia, for just correcting me.
There's some less than safe.
I'm very grateful, Claudia!
You're welcome!
Thank you!
There's some less than savory activities that require heels. I've heard. Shad, we're missing the armor.
Okay, so, alright, It's a kind of like a practical bulge, but the design has this weird design where it's kind of like a plate on top of a plate, and it doesn't fully go down on the sides. It's a beautiful piece of art, but I'm not convinced on its practical defense.
Can you enhance?
Enhance? Let's just enhance. What do you think?
I like it.
I like the, actually, I was going to say I like the pauldron, but that part that flares up, that would hit you and get in the way and stuff, and so, but, yeah, I'm on the fence, but we'll keep, let us know in the comments what you think. Don't know. I don't know.
That one?
Don't know that one. Look, I think it's practical. We could call it practical. Yeah. I'm just not sure about how it's segmented.
Enhance.
Enhance?
Yeah, that doesn't look practical.
Yeah, actually, it comes in weirdly on the side. And
Yeah.
But though, that would enable some more, range of movement with your arms.
But if you've got a plate that is part of the breastplate and also, extends over the shoulder, you're going to have a hassle, moving your arm all the way up.
Yeah.
Whoa.
This is an interesting one.
That's incredible.
Yeah, kind of like a Greek-style bit of art that we see here. And it's kind of like, have you seen those old, Viking, it's exaggerated fantasy, but they have, these kind of cone shapes over the breasts?
Yeah, Madonna had some.
It's a bit like that in that design. And that is, combined with scale armor. Maybe it's full scale, and then the cups are put over on top to emphasize it. If the scales actually are underneath as well, I would say it's practical. Yeah. All right. This, it's kind of like a take on the Red Sonja scale metal armor thing.
She looks like she's about ready to flash the Romans.
It's not practical. It's just practical. But the thing is, though, it's not practical defense, but if you needed something to just make them secure while you're running around. And it has the sports bra kind of design.
Make them secure. Secure your boobs.
Why do you think sports bras exist?
Arrest your chest.
Why do you think like sports equipment for guys are pretty tight down there?
Yep.
Yeah, you secure it, like, you know.
Entrust your bust.
Wow, check this one out.
Oh, that's cool.
This one's stunning. This is gorgeous. Look at that. That is another example of like almost a perfectly depicted female armor, emphasizing the female form, not really sacrificing any like armor, like defensive issues and stuff, you know. And look, if you people are, I've addressed the supposed issues with boob armor, if it's dangerous or not, in a video, okay? The dip actually isn't as much of an issue, but even if you had an issue with the dip in between, that doesn't have it at all, yet it shows this is, you would not be able to misidentify that as like anything but female armor. Gorgeous though, look at that. That's just stunning.
Beautiful render.
Yeah, it looks like she's got high heels though.
Whoa, what the?
This one, this one was, I wasn't sure to include because it's more sci-fi, okay? Because look, if you could get like metal armor that hugged the skin and you could move freely in it, that would
That's just a naked lady with metallic paint. That's what that is.
Not to that level. It's not. It's skin tight, but it's not like it's, you know.
But you got to ask, how can you have metallic skin tight and still move?
Well, I mean, people do struggle to move in like skin tight leather. I do admit. So there's that point.
How do you know that, Shad?
You know, that's just not common knowledge. You don't know that.
No. Maybe I need to learn some things. You send me a link.
If it depends how restrictive it would be, but if you could have like a fantasy material that was skin tight like that, and that would actually be even more practical because you could wear things over top of it and stuff, and if it didn't restrict movement, fully protective, like it'd be hard to find the gaps in that.
But we would look regardless.
So there's a bit of a weakness on this one.
Yeah. Yeah, she's wearing heels and that little
yeah, the heels just wouldn't work. And I don't know if this is like leather armor, because the white material is obviously cloth, but it's depicted as if it's leather, but then she's got more metal helmet and inside and stuff. So, look, no. It's not a complete loss because there are some protective parts to it, but it's not fully practical at all. That one's not bad.
But the legs and pelvic... I know we're just doing the boobs.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
We can comment on the rest, but the thing is, though, remember, there's a historical precedent of not wearing armor on the legs. So, I mean, the way she's using a two-handed sword, okay, and usually, depending on your stance, right, if you're using a two-handed sword and you withdraw it and you present this side, and if that side is armored, there's logic to having one side armored and one side not, if you're always keeping that side presented. But if you go into certain strikes that switch and then present then it's a problem, and you'd want both arms armored. So, look, I would say middle. It's a middle range one.
But she's got the shabard, kind of.
I don't see a shabard. Really. Well, it's a bare blade that's just hanging on the back.
Okay, I'm wrong.
No extra points.
I'll concede.
All right, let's have a look at this one.
Yes. Can you enhance, please, sir?
We better enhance. So, the heels aren't actually... they look a bit narrow, but they're not completely.
Those are like some shoes that Robert Downey Jr. would wear.
Yeah. And I don't think there's anything else worth looking at this one.
No, wait, but just because this video is about the...
All right, fine. I was just going to do a meme for one, just skip it. But we know what people want, don't we? We know what you guys want.
Yeah, yes, sick perverts. We're here for science.
We're just... exactly. Come on. This is a mature analysis of the fantasy depiction of female armor, all right?
You people.
Come on.
I mean, just everyone, not...
So, interesting. You see a blue underlayer underneath the metal there.
In case she gets cold.
Prevent chafing as well.
She could get cold. And...
But, of course, look, you can't really justify the exposed part just above the chest there. It's a target.
That's what that is.
Yeah.
I thought that was just painted.
Paint on top of the metal?
Paint on top of the metal.
Well, they did paint their armour in the medieval period. So, we'll go... The helmet's not too... it's fantasy. It's not bad for fantasy. Have we already done that one?
No.
I don't think we have. Okay, so... If those segments underneath the bust actually would fold, you would get a decent amount of movement out of that, so that's not terrible. And It looks like the middle part in between the breasts is actually still raised off the chest, which is the key to like avoid any major issues. So even if there is a big dip in it, right? It's nowhere near as dangerous as people claim.
Yeah, because it's got metal.
It's metal, exactly.
If the sword bounces off the metal of the breast and can't get through that, and it gets funneled inward, it probably won't get through that either.
Exactly, and swords have very little blunt force to transfer force through metal. You would need something really heavy like a poleaxe, and if you're getting hit with a poleaxe, wherever you're getting hit is potentially dangerous. So, that one's great.
That one's good.
Yeah, top marks. Very practical. That one's awesome. But that one actually, is that boob armor? I don't think it is. I think that's just a more natural bulge that we see in regular armor. Sorry, no. No boob armor. This one, I think, I'm just going out on a limb here, I don't think that would be completely protective.
Yeah.
You agree?
What? What was the question?
No, that's just regular armor.
Just regular armor.
Not boob armor.
We're here for a reason.
That one looks like boob armor. It's hard to tell. I think it is.
Yeah.
I
am worried though.
Yeah?
I'm worried it might be unsafe because look at all the spikes on the shoulders
Those
and stuff.
spikes would be pretty unsafe.
Yeah. And her entire front part's naked basically.
And look at the spikes right here. See how the spikes come down like right there? I would be worried if you actually really crunched that.
Yeah, if she bent over, she might get stabbed.
Well, that went above my head, Oz, because I'm not as disgusting as you.
No, I just thought that's something someone might think.
Oh, really?
Not me, though.
Oh, of course. Oh, it's like, part of me really likes it, but again, I don't think I like how short the breastplate ends.
I don't like how it ends in a point.
Yeah.
Because people don't bend over like 90 degrees. I think.
Yeah, you're right. Look, I was criticising points on the other one. Yeah, I don't think the point would be that great there. So this armour...
Is she cleaning a castle?
This is the armoured maid armour.
I mean, if I had a mage, I'd want her to have protection too.
Yeah, like armor, like give her the weapons. Well, this is the thing.
Yeah, just have her.
All right. People
sword.
who are saying that this is impractical, there is context to this image. This is a maid, and you need to consider how protected was she in a regular maid's outfit versus this. The regular maid's outfit has no armor on it at all. This has armor versus the other one. More protective. Checkmate. Can't argue against it.
This is an improvement.
It is an improvement.
Yeah. Very dragon.
Do you think it's made out of dragon skin scale?
I hope not, otherwise that dragon would be terrified right now.
Yeah.
You're wearing daddy.
That's true, it's true. Look, it's a bit impractical.
Yeah, where are you going to get dragon hide from?
I know.
It doesn't exist in reality.
So.
Oh yeah, also she's half naked as well. So there's that.
Technically she's only revealing about 20% of her skin, if you were to take the whole into consideration. I'm being scientific.
Poor choice of words,
I'm being
Chad.
scientific and objective here.
Poor choice of words.
I'm just being objective. This one isn't even armor. But it's the barbarian aesthetic. Look, she's got some chainmail, but
she is wearing a G-string.
Is she?
And it's visible.
I didn't know. I was looking at the sword. And look, massive criticism. That should be a center grip shield. And yeah, just...
You can see her belly button.
I'm not sure this one's armor either, Oz. For an axe that big, she just looks too skinny. At least the other one, there's some muscle there.
Yeah, she's toned.
That's muscle, right?
Yeah,
that one,
I
mean, if you're going to do barbarian warrior chick, give them some muscle, I reckon.
Big legs for crushing heads with.
That one, look, no, not practical, fail.
We saw
that one. That one's just, yeah. So, actually, like, the armor comes in as, like, arrows. There's a point, there's an arrow here, like they're triangles, almost, meeting in the middle. Obviously not practical, and I'm not sure I'm sold on the aesthetic here, but it's combined creatively with the dress.
I'm beginning to notice a trend here, Shad.
What's that?
I think they're leaving massive parts of the armor and body unarmored just so they can accentuate the sexual features of these women.
Are you?
I think that's what they might be doing.
No.
When I look at armor, I think, how could someone have ulterior motives other than protecting the user? But this stuff really isn't protective at all.
Well, I think you might have a point then, but it goes into a certain reality, though. If you're not as concerned for the armor being protective, and you wanted it to just be dressed in a fancy way with certain adornments, the armor's there just for adornment. There is actually parallels in many, not only historically but in the modern day, where women wear things to accentuate, certain characteristics, features. Some might even call it.
Maybe.
This one goes in. This one's like in layers. All right, but
it's gonna fall out the side.
yeah, there's a bit of a expo on the first one, but the last one, it's only a front breastplate, and honestly, it doesn't come in enough on the sides. If you're she's way too exposed, just like a front flap thing. No, doesn't work.
That one's good.
That one's good. Oh, well, actually, the breastplate comes a bit low, but it doesn't go too much, so maybe she'll get some movement out of it. It's not bad. It's not bad, that one.
I like that. That's my favourite.
I think I really like this one. We've got so it's interesting. There are a lot of artworks that are done very modestly, that are just a slight, bulge right there, which accentuates the form, but still very practical.
It could be improved if they were painted pajama colours.
I don't like the design of the sword. The sword lets me down. It's very bulky. I don't like the crossguard. But that's, yeah.
Another very protective set of armour.
Well, we need to focus on the breastplate. Look, it looks like it's a bit small.
To be fair, she needs to be. She has wings. She needs to be light.
That's true.
She needs to be light on her feet.
Yes,
and the best way to do that is to only protect.
Yeah. To me, if we're actually to try and give whatever benefit of the doubt, this is obviously not armour. But if people are wearing armoured pieces for aesthetic display, that's fine. The things that might, like gauntlets. Remember the actual vulnerable areas in combat. If you want to focus on the vulnerable areas, the hands, maybe the head, and the forearms, and you just wanted to have adornment and pieces and other things just for looks. Okay, if a female had that preference, there's actually enough precedent for people wearing impractical things in the past, with maybe slight elements of practicality in some areas, and then the other things just to look good.
And that, yeah. Again, I think they've made the same mistake as all those other guys.
As well.
There's the gap with the boob part.
Yeah, this one to me doesn't make sense, even for an aesthetic thing, because they've gone out of the way to cover and protect so much, to the point where it seems like they're purposely going to be relying on the armor for defense, especially on the chest, and then having a blatant open part right there. Seems like quite the weakness.
If I was on the battlefield,
it's weird. That one is far more exposed, yet out of a practical analysis of if they're not caring for defense and they just want to protect their hands or something like that, to me that actually is more realistic in a sense than that.
Yeah.
That's odd, but interesting analysis.
Yeah.
And we're here for interesting analysis. It's for science, like I said.
All things science on this channel.
I can't tell if she has armor underneath the. It's like a scapula, but it's connected on the sides.
I think if there was actual boob underneath and not metal, they'd show us.
Not always. There could be a metal breastplate. But overall, I don't mind it. It's not bad.
That was good.
That one's great.
That works.
I love that one.
That's just a good piece right
That's
there.
Brilliant, yeah. Top, protective.
That one too?
I've always liked this one. Yeah. This is one I've used in the other videos as a reference, an example of female armor done right, even in the example where it's accentuating both sides, and it has a dip in the middle, but it doesn't go all the way down to the chest, and so it's still raised off of it. And if that was hardened steel, that would be very protective.
I don't know what accentuator means. I just like that it's protective, and it still has boobs.
Men like boobs.
Yeah.
I think women like boobs as well. Maybe not the same way as men.
Why else did they enjoy Titanic?
There are examples, but anyway. This one's weird. It's actually protecting the very part that is usually exposed and leaving the other part unprotected. It's like an inversion. And even then, I'm not sure I like it. Like the plate segments, and then those straps seem to be glued. Like they would come down and kind of straight any lines. Look, whoever did it, very talented in terms of the technical depiction, but the actual design, yeah.
Here's the thing, right? You take off that piece and just attach it to any of the ones we've given thumbs up and down to.
It would then they would complete the set.
Yeah, there you go. A complete set for their set.
I don't know how this one snuck in. It's like sci-fi, and I'm not like it's not really armor.
It's like if Raiden from Metal Gear Solid was a lady.
Yeah, gender-bended Raiden. I guess full set. We've seen her before. Different angle. Hard to, like, I can't see if there's armor underneath or not.
There will be.
You reckon there would be?
Yeah.
So there we go. We got to see a lot of examples of medieval fantasy female armor. Some good examples, some examples that probably weren't as good. Let us know what you thought. You can timestamp your favorite one in the comments below. Of course, if you know who the artists were, please credit them as well. And the thing is, though, there's a lot of fantasy artworks out there. And if you're interested, we could continue it. But I'm happy to. That's a good baseline, I think. Yeah. We got a good example of ones that work, and also. Interesting historical precedents in some cases as well. Thank you for watching. I do hope you have enjoyed. And of course, I hope to see you here on the next video on Shadowversity. So until that time, farewell.